And actually, before we even begin on that, I want to feel free to shout out the city that you're from. I'd like to see what cities you're coming from. Let me see. Hey, Jessica, I see you. Karen, let's see. Oh, John says, I love the previous boot camp. Well, that's one great benefit of the Black Wealth Bootcamp is that you can come to any live boot camp sessions anytime in the future. If I have another boot camp in the future, you and your family are invited to the boot camps forever. It's a lifetime membership. And so it's something that you can do for the rest of your life. We're always shifting it. We're always adding new things, adding a little twist here and there. And the content from your boot camp is yours forever. Now, if you come to a live session later, those live sessions belong to the students that are in that cohort, but you can still come live. You can still come to the class live and hang out and ask questions and everything else. And so I see Houston, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Rico, Kashif out of Brooklyn, Jessica, St. Louis, Daphne out of Alabama, Marie from Chicago, Darnell out of Houston. All right, Kathy, first time. Hello from Baltimore. Hello, Kathy. So good to see you. Chanel is in the chat. Chanel, just put a little welcome message in there. Chanel is the resident superstar. She is the awesome person that makes all this work. She's the one that it can answer your questions, get you what you need, make sure you're well taken care of, all that good stuff. We want to, in the Black Business School, make sure that you're 100% happy. The reason we created the Black Business School and the Black Wealth Bootcamp was basically because you guys know my background, and I'll share a little bit of it with you, but I won't bore you with that. But I've been a college professor for a long time. I taught my first college class in 1993, believe it or not. That's a long time ago. I know some of y'all might not even been born then. And I was 22 years old, and half my students were older than me. That's how long ago it was. And so since that time, I've learned a lot. I figured out a lot of things about finance and about wealth. I figured out where the treasure is buried, where the secrets are, how to explain complex ideas in a very simple way, how to mass produce the ideology that we need as a community in order for us to grow. I created the Black Wealth Bootcamp with the word Black in it intentionally, not because white people are excluded. I'm sure there have been white people and Asian people, et cetera, who've taken the Black Wealth Bootcamp. But I put the word Black in there because I feel like it's very important for us to be clear and intentional. I believe deeply in the idea of intentionality, and that is a type of almost meditative focus on the things that matter to you. When you're trying to make an adjustment in your life, you have to be intentional. Success does not happen by accident. You don't wander down the street and bump into millionaire status. You don't sort of wander into greatness. You have to like a rocket. In order for a rocket to try to leave the Earth, right? You got to understand there is a ton of force pushing that rocket down, and the higher it goes, the more the force pushes it down. And so a rocket has to be intentional about trying to leave the gravitational pull of the Earth. If the rocket's not intentional, if the rocket's distracted, or if the rocket's wiggly or flimsy, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the rocket? The rocket's not going anywhere. It's going to go back down to the ground, right? Or it's going to blow up, right? And so a lot of times when you're talking about change, particularly in our community where you're trying to overcome just a horrific number of generational curses, when you talk about changing something as deep as your habits that are deeply embedded in your subconscious, deeply embedded in your culture, you have to have distinct, clear intentionality about making that adjustment. You have to be as serious as the day is long. And so to that extent, while I think we can certainly have a lot of fun learning about wealth and really incorporate into the culture in a comfortable way, I really want you to be intentional about sort of what you want your goals to be during these 6 weeks. We're going to do a 6-week deep dive intensive on everything you need to reduce your dependence on the corporate plantation. The Black Wealth Bootcamp was created specifically for those who either want to quit their jobs or just quit their jobs, or trying to make sure they never have to go back and get a job. And so let me just say this. Right now, it's a time where a lot of people are quitting their job. How many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you have heard of something called the Great Resignation? Give me a yes in the chat if you've ever heard of the Great Resignation. Okay, good. Thank you, Jessica. I see you. And Daryl, okay, there you go. Myrma, Kashif, Alberta. Okay, so you've seen that. Right, so the Great Resignation is what? The Great Resignation is where lots of people are just done with the corporate plantation. They realize that there's a life outside of the job. It's like a great awakening. And so the pandemic was amazing. It wasn't the best, right? It was tough. It was tough for a lot of people. But one of the benefits of the pandemic, because remember, every setback is an opportunity for a come up if you look at it in the right way. Just like in investing, when we talk about buying the dip, that's an opportunity for you to have a come up. If you can get past the sadness of the prices dropping, you can then see the opportunity of the fact that the prices have dropped. So the same thing is true here with the setback of the pandemic. That was an opportunity for a comeback and a come up, because what it did was it snapped people out of the hypnosis of American capitalism. You see, you don't understand. The brainwashing runs deep. My wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, who is a licensed therapist, social worker, and she's a full professor of social work. Full professors are really, really rare. PhDs, only 1% of the population is a PhD, but a very small percentage of the PhDs actually become full professors. So my wife is elite in her field, creme de la creme. Like, it's like the difference between a basketball player versus being an NBA All-Star. Those are two different levels of accomplishment. And one of the things that my wife and I talk about a lot, because this is one of her areas of expertise, is the subconscious mind. And one of the things that I encourage you to be thoughtful about, and this is where intentionality comes into play, is that as Black people, and really just as people in general, Americans, etc., there's a lot of effort to control and to manipulate and to manage your subconscious mind. When corporations design commercials to get you to use your Black spending power in a certain way, they are tapping into your subconscious mind. When you are going to school and they're teaching you to grow up and get a good job and go deep in student loan debt so you can go and work for a corporation, they're tapping into your subconscious mind. So effectively, to some extent, they hypnotize you at an early age to become a good soldier for capitalism. Because the thing about a capitalist system in America is it doesn't work if you don't have your soldiers doing all the work. The elite people don't want to do the work. They get the tax write-offs, they make the investments, they control the capital. So they need the workers, they need that labor in order for it to work. So a lot of the systems designed to put you into a trance, to make you financially woke. Right. And when you're not financially woke, when you're not asleep, when you're financially unconscious, as opposed to conscious, which is something I encourage you to have consciousness. When we talk about intentionality, we're really talking about consciousness. Right. A lot of people use the word conscious, but a lot of unconscious people use the word conscious all the time, and they use it in the wrong context. But when we're talking about being financially conscious, they don't really necessarily want that, because that disrupts their effort to hypnotizing you into becoming a good slave for capitalism. So what happened during the Great Resignation, in my view, this is what I was seeing as a finance guy, is you saw people suddenly snapped out of it, right? It's almost like ladies can relate to this. You ever go to a man's house? Maybe he's trying to get you to kind of get a little closer to him, if you know what I mean. And so what does he do? Maybe he says, let me play some of your favorite music, right? I'm gonna put on some cologne so I'm smelling good. I'm gonna make you a nice romantic dinner with flowers and everything else, right? And I'm gonna here, girl, let me. Right. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what it is, right? We're grown-ups here, right? And then let's say something weird happens, like something blows up, or his girlfriend calls, or the kids come in the room. What happens? You snap out of it. You suddenly are like awake again. Your consciousness is back, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not. It's like ripping the needle off the record player. You know what I mean? Like you're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Whoa, no, I'm not. No, we're not doing this, right? So ultimately, to some extent, the pandemic was kind of the great economic awakening, where millions of people were snapped out of the trance of American capitalism. You were snapped out of the rut. The rut is get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. Get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. Get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. I spend 5 days of the week working my butt off so that I can be free on the weekend. So I can have 2 days off at the end of the week, in the whole week, and I'm gonna drink myself into the ground because I'm so depressed about the fact that I got to go back to work on Monday. And who told you that you have to go to work on Monday and be there for 8 hours a day? No, nobody told you that explicitly. They just subtly told you that. They told you that's what everybody does. Right? You didn't. It wasn't as if you decided, oh, well, this makes sense. I think I'm going to go spend more time with my job than I spend with my kids. Like, you didn't decide that. That wasn't a conscious choice. You were just kind of, grandfathered into the system, right? Nobody told you that. Think about this, right? You work for the whole year and then for 2 weeks off. 50 weeks belong to the plantation. 2 weeks belong to you. You get 2 weeks off a year. Who told you that? Who told you that that's the way it's supposed to be? Nobody did. You just were brought into that system. There was just sort of this like a very subtle, like, okay, well, I guess that's what everybody does. Well, you remember, a lot of this system was designed, the people that designed the system were extremely intentional about what they wanted you to believe was the norm. When the Industrial Revolution came along in the United States, they were very intentional in saying we need more people to commit to this system so that we can grow the economy, grow wealth. So with that intentionality, that is what they did to basically lull you into this routine that people started to question during the pandemic. That's when, so during the pandemic, people started saying, huh, well, wait, why do I have to go to work every day? I didn't even like going to work every day. It's kind of nice being at home. It's kind of nice talking to my relatives and calling my parents. And, and I had a friend, I'll tell you what, I had a friend um, who had been listening to me for years. If you know, if you follow back, you go back to maybe 2010 or even before that, I've always been talking about this. I've always been sort of, I almost sound like a Marxist in a way. If you read anything from Karl Marx, Marxism is the ideology that he created. And one of the things he criticized capitalism for is the fact that it eats up your life. That if you're overly committed to the corporate plantation, it literally eats into your life. So let's do the math, right? You spend 40 hours a week at work over 50 weeks during the year. That's 2,000 hours a year. Over a decade, times 2,000 times 10, that's 20,000 hours. So that means if you work 40 years, that's 80,000 hours, but most of us work 50 years or more. So that's 100,000 hours, 100,000 hours that you have spent dedicating your time to building a business for somebody else. 100,000 hours you spent doing something other than living your life and enjoying your life. Right? If you think that sounds like slavery, it's because it probably is. Because when and you don't really escape it just because you went to college and all that, because what the student loans do is that put you into a deeper form of slavery. So if you ask a lot of people like, hey, well, why don't you just quit that job? If you hate the job so much, why don't you quit it? Well, what do they say? Well, they say, I can't. I can't because I got to pay my student loans. I got to pay my bills. I got to pay my baby's mamas. I got to pay whatever, right? So you're trapped in that process, trapped in that system. So Karl Marx actually used to talk about that, where he said capitalism is not that's not healthy for people. An overcommitment to capitalism is not healthy. Now, the problem with Karl Marx, just to be not a Marxist, is because he was good at criticizing capitalism. He wasn't good at coming up with a good replacement, in my opinion, right? So I think that Black economics is a good replacement for our people, where you have a healthy relationship with economics. You have a healthy relationship with money, right? You have a healthy understanding that, look, I need money to get by. I want to have some wealth. I want to be able to leave something to my kids. I want to own some assets. I want to own some property, but I'm not going to let money control my life. I will never, ever believe that spending more time with my boss is more important than spending time with my children. I'm never going to let anybody talk me into that. I'm also never going to let anybody talk me into this idea that, I don't know, being a corporate executive is more important than, say, I don't know, being a mother. Right? They even did that. A lot of people felt that even feminism was manipulated to sort of say, okay, let's convince women that if you stay home, if you're a woman that wants to take care of your kids, well, something's wrong with you. You're not you're not a strong woman, right? Because you're supposed to be in the factory. You're supposed to leave your kids with the babysitter. Oh, no, a mother has a right to choose what kind of mother she wants to be, right? That's what freedom looks like, right? So some mothers may choose to go to work every day. Some mothers may say, I'm going to go to work at home and I'm going to pour into the little people in my house because those children are part of my wealth portfolio too. In fact, they're probably the most important part of my asset base that I have. Because when I get older, my children are going to be the ones who are going to be there for me to whatever degree they feel like I was there for them. So if I'm off working and conquering the world and kids don't know who mama is or they don't know who daddy is, well, when mom and daddy get older and they're in the old folks home, the kids are going to forget you then too. Right? When the tables get turned, the kids are going to remember every single hour that you did or did not spend with them when they were little. And if you neglected them because you were all busy climbing the corporate ladder, well, guess what? When you get older and you need them, they're going to say, I'm sorry, I'm busy climbing the corporate ladder just like you did. That's another generational curse that's out there, just in case you want to know. So now to me is a great time to walk away from all of that. Now is a great time to really expand your thinking when it comes to economics. The goal of the Black Wealth Bootcamp is to say, look, let's talk about all the different ways that people find economic fulfillment and economic wholeness. I know all of that. Right? And I have, and what I don't know, my friends know more than I do. right? And so during this boot camp, during these 6 weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to do intense deep dives into all aspects of how people make money, aspects of how people can create not just generational wealth. That's extremely important. That'll be part of it as well. We're going to talk about everything from crypto to investments to every single thing that you want to do. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about all the different methods of side hustles and all kinds of stuff that will prepare you to kind of move forward. And also every week you can leave me questions and bring your questions to class and I'll answer those questions. And also don't forget, I want you to bring discussion. Wealth needs to be a Black family conversation. It doesn't just need to be you in a silo learning everything you need to know. It doesn't help you if you know everything and the people around you are completely ignorant and have no understanding of what you're doing. You want them to be in on the process as well. So bring your wife, bring your kids, bring your husband, bring your baby's mama, baby daddy, cousin, them. I don't care who you bring, because Black wealth needs to be Black church for us. We need to make this into church where we are really learning the things that we need to learn. So what I'm going to say is this. Look, if you want to get any more information on the boot camp, we have plenty of material there. If you go log in, just go to blackwealthbootcamp.com, or you can go to boycewatkins.com and just click on the Black Wealth Bootcamp link and log in. The recordings for every session will be there. If you're a member of this particular cohort, the recordings of these sessions will be available. If you're a member of a previous cohort, you have access to the material from your particular cohort, right? So each cohort will have its own material that you have lifetime access to. So members of previous boot camps can come to the live sessions, but the recordings are available to the students that are in this particular cohort. So there are a few hundred of you that joined this particular cohort, a few thousand of you that are from previous cohorts that are always welcome to come to the live sessions. You can even send a relative if you want to next time, because you can let them know, look, I have a lifetime membership to this thing, and you can go in to the live classes for free because I bought this lifetime membership as an investment for our family. Okay. Now, let me know if that makes sense to you. So you can log in at blackwealthbootcamp.com to get all those materials. One more thing I want to remind you of before we do before we actually begin is I want to remind you that if you have any questions at all, Chanel is in the chat. First of all, you can ask her questions. She can help you out. Number two, we have a great support team at the Black Business School. We are not here serving the community on some sort of money grab. We charge money for stuff because we want to be independent. We do not want to depend on the government. We do not want to depend on the corporations, because we do not believe that the right solutions for our people are out there. I've studied wealth for a very long time. People have to have a specific curriculum that's designed specifically to solve the specific problems that we are specifically addressing in our community. One example might be, for example, if you go to college, they'll tell you something like, well, it takes 3 to 5 years for a business to become profitable, right? So you have to endure losses for 3 to 5 years before you can make a profit. Most Black business owners don't have 3 to 5 years to become profitable. They might have 3 to 5 months, maybe even 3 to 5 weeks. So you have to shift those business models, right? Another example is in our families. A lot of times, because you have what I refer to as bad economic soil in some of your families, where maybe you might be on this wealth train, you're on this education train, but you know what it is. A lot of our families are a little bit broken. A lot of our families have a lot of crazy issues. A lot of our families have issues that you think have nothing to do with wealth, but they have everything to do with wealth. If your daddy was on drugs and your cousin is in and out of jail, and your sister is got 3 baby daddies, all those 3 things impact wealth. All those 3 things are wealth drags. Every single one of them. Every one of them. It drains, as collectively, it drains trillions out of the Black community. But specifically for your family, finding a way to get a grip on some of those things is really vital to you being able to build wealth. You see, you got to understand, one thing you got to realize is that peace and prosperity go hand in hand. So when you have peace, then you have a chance to build. But when you have chaos, well, it's damn near impossible to build in the middle of chaos. That's like trying to construct a building in the middle of a tornado. You ain't never seen a skyscraper ever get built in the middle of a tornado. You've never seen a skyscraper get built in the middle of a nuclear war, ever. You'll never see that, right? So some of you are living in the middle of a tornado. And so sometimes the wealth process starts with saying, okay, how can I isolate, create boundaries, do some healing internally, externally? Some of y'all, not only are living inside a tornado, but some of y'all have the tornado inside of you. Right? These are all related. These things are all related to wealth. So ultimately, this, in my view, says that the Black wealth conversation must be deeper than just, like, well, here's how you invest in a 401k, and this is what small cap stocks make in relative to large cap stocks. I can tell you all of that. I can talk to you about the relationship between, between the Federal Reserve's, rate hikes and the inflation levels and the 10-year bond yields and what that does to, to your tax exempt status. And I can talk about all that. But none of that matters if you're not showing up prepared to implement and execute the things that we discuss. Right? So the thing about wealth is so related to family, it is so related to environment, it is so related to your mindset that we have to all address all of that in a holistic fashion, and we must address it in a way that to allow you to get the things that you need. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a survey, and I'm going to ask you guys three quick questions in class. One is, have you ever taken a Dr. Boyce class? Number two will be, have you ever taken a class in the Black Business School? The third question is, have you quit your job yet? So I'm launching the survey now. And just as a reminder, if you log in at blackwealthbootcamp.com, that's blackwealthbootcamp.com. That's where you can get all the materials from the boot camp, see all the lectures, all the slides, everything will be in there. So feel free to go there and log in if you'd like to take